And I will never forget the day, sitting in Congress 7 or 8 years ago, listening to a witness testify about the threat of Iran. And even back then, the urgency was there. Iran trying to get a nuclear weapon. And the gentleman said, there should be someone at the White House all day thinking about nothing but the threat of Iran. Why has Maurice Hinchey consistently been one of the only members of Congress to vote against sanctions on Iran, a state sponsor of terrorism? Israel has been our strong ally. We share in the war against terrorism with Israel. We'll be a strong friend.
I think this is probably the only time I've been involved in politics in 20 years. I think this is probably the only time I've been involved in politics in 20 years. I ran back inside and a bomb went off. Was shot from Gaza right over my head. And this is the same Gaza, the same Hamas that Maurice Hinchey feels has the right to have everything come in and that's how it would be if he is defeated. And say that citizens like you, like Representative say it's more important what a man says and what he stands for than anything else. George Phillips. I've really seen a candidate like him. I've really seen a candidate like him because he's someone who knows the issues, he is strong, and he stands for what the Americans stand for.
I am honored to have the endorsement of Mayor Ed Koch.
I hope until the day I die, whenever God wants to take me, that I will maintain my interest in the city and the state of New York and our country. That I will maintain my interest in the city and the state of New York and our country. I am, and have been, very concerned about what is happening in the Middle East because Israel has been in danger from the day it was created. The greatest ally that the United States has is in the Middle East, democratic, supportive of our policies is Israel, and the greatest ally that Israel has is the United States. What's important to know is in the history of the relationship between the United States and Israel, it is the Congress that has never flinched. It is the Congress when presidents wavered, not just the current president recently, but back on track. But in the history of the relationship, it is the Congress that stood up. And I have concluded, and I concluded long ago, that Maurice Hinchey is not a congressman who supports the state of Israel.
Correct.
I know he's correct. And so, when an election comes where you can throw the bum out, there are a whole host of moments in time when Maurice Hinchey has conveyed his hostility to Israel and his support of the Islamic terrorist cause. The greatest supporters of Israel are Christians in terms of numbers. Grab hold of him. Help him. Help him with your shoe leather. Help him with your money. Get to the polls. Bring the people. We want a fair redistricting, no longer to have redistricting on the basis of keeping incumbents in. Hinchey is an incumbent. So we have asked every member of Congress from New York to sign a pledge that they would support impartial redistricting. Hinchey has refused. You're going to win.
I think our health care system is in crisis.
Yes.
I think Obamacare is a disaster.
Yes.
I think it's misguided, and I think it's shortchanging people who depend on Medicare.
Yes.
You should run.
Where are you when it comes to Mr. Phillips' domestic policies?
I have no doubt that I disagree on a number of issues. I'm a Democrat. He's a Republican. There's no question that George has the position that I applaud and that Maurice Hinchey does not. I am for George Phillips. Now, again, I disagree with him on a whole host of issues. Unimportant. I endorse him on not only because he's standing up, still keep his word.
One of the greatest changes that I think we could make is to send a new member to Congress. George, thank you for running, and thank you for what you were doing.
Jay, thank you. I can't tell you how honored we are to have the support of Ron Lauder here today.
Maurice Hinchey, his votes on Iran are not only unacceptable, they're awful. It's about our children, it's about our life, and Maurice Hinchey does not deserve to be a U.S. Congressman. And for that and many other reasons, I know George Phillips, he's wonderful. And I hope that the citizens of the 22nd District vote for him.
I am honored to have his endorsement along with the endorsement of Ron Lauder, and we would love to have the mayor say a few words.
First, I'm going to put my hand on this shoulder. When George met me some time ago, he told me that he could win and that he thought he could make a great contribution by replacing Maurice Hinchey, who is not a friend of Israel's. And I said, stay in touch. And we have stayed in touch, and I believe that George not only can win, will win. And Hinchey is not a friend of Israel's. He's demonstrated that many times with his refusal to join the bipartisan members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans, who urge the president to be supported. Hinchey is not one of those who will provide that support. George will. And that is why I came up specially to endorse him. And having talked with people, I am absolutely convinced that if the people of this area come out in the numbers that they're capable of coming out, we're looking, and I'm holding his hand at the next member of Congress.
How do you feel about the business positions and the economic positions of George Phillips?
That his positions, all the ones I know, are truly positive for business. The more we can do to encourage business here in New York State, the more employment we have. George Phillips understands numbers, understands what has to be done. I'm happy to support George Phillips in that. Maurice Hinchey, I don't think understands it.
You spent most of your political career in New York City, and recently you focused your efforts on state politics in Albany. Why you've decided to enter into a federal congressional race 60 miles north of New York City?
Absolutely. I do what I think is right, and I have no regrets. I also formed, and I think you were suggestive about it, New York Uprising. One of the pledges that we asked of the members of Congress was that they would support impartial redistricting. Maurice Hinchey refuses. He refuses. He likes gerrymanders. George has signed the pledge, and that's why we're here.
So Maurice Hinchey has not signed your pledge, and George Phillips has?
Yes.
Is that in fact the larger reason why you were...
And for Maurice Hinchey to sign with, I think, 53 other members of Congress, a pro-Hamas resolution is unacceptable.
So does that mean that you will also endorse opponents of any other
Depends on whether I believed them. I believe George.
Yes, I won't be turning a blind eye to Islamic fundamentalist terrorism.